everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving into a book today that I think you'll find really interesting. It's Bold by Peter Diamandis, and it's all about how technology is changing the world at an insane pace.
Yeah, it's really eye-opening.
It is, and we're going to pull out some of the coolest ideas and figure out what they mean for you. You know, how you can use these ideas to not just keep up, but actually get ahead in this crazy tech world.
Definitely. What really struck me was how Diamandis doesn't just talk about the technology itself. He actually gives you a framework for understanding all the amazing opportunities that come along with these advancements.
Ooh, I like that, a framework.
Yeah.
So let's unpack that a little. He starts with this concept he calls the 6 Ds of exponential.
The 6 Ds, right?
Yeah.
Demonetization, dematerialization, democratization.
Okay, those are 3.
And then disruption, deception, and deflation.
6 Ds. All right, so have you seen any of these Ds happening like in your own life?
Oh, all the time. Just think about how we listen to music now. Remember buying CDs, like actually going to the store?
I do. I miss it a little, honestly.
Yeah, there was something about it, but that's a perfect example of demonetization and dematerialization, right? Music basically became free, and the CD itself vanished.
Poof.
Gone.
Pretty much.
And those changes completely shook up the music industry. All these new players popped up, and the old giants like Tower Records, they just couldn't keep up.
It makes you wonder what industry is going to be the next victim. Like what seems totally safe and untouchable today, but in 5 years, who knows?
Yeah. Ooh, it's kind of scary to think about, actually.
It is. And that's where the D's of deception comes in. It's so easy to write off new technologies when they first appear. Like, oh, that's just a toy, or that'll never catch on.
They seem so small, so insignificant at the beginning.
Exactly. But then they hit this tipping point and boom, the whole world changes.
It's crazy how fast it happens.
It is.
Like Kodak, he uses Kodak as the ultimate cautionary tale, right? A company that completely missed a massive disruption. They were so focused on film.
I thought they were in the film business. They were in the memory business.
Exactly. And they didn't adapt. Do you think that same kind of thinking is still happening today? Like, are there big companies out there right now that are making that same mistake?
I mean, I definitely think it's possible. Like, companies can get so locked into their current product, their way of doing things, that they completely miss the bigger picture.
It's hard to see the forest for the trees sometimes.
Right? So how do we avoid becoming the next Kodak? How do we not get blindsided by these changes?
Well, Diamandis argues that understanding these 6 Ds is crucial. It's not just about surviving. It's about actually using these changes to your advantage, to thrive.
I like that. Thrive.
Yeah, it's about being aware of these trends.
Yeah.
Really anticipating those disruptions.
Having that radar up.
Exactly. And then being prepared to adapt. You got to be flexible.
And that leads us to, I think, one of the most exciting types of all of this, right? Democratization. Technologies that used to be super expensive, like only for the elite, are now becoming available to basically anyone, like 3D printing.
3D printing is such a cool example. I remember when it was just a hobbyist thing, like a little niche. And now people are printing prosthetic limbs in their garages.
That just blows my mind. So these Ds, these aren't just like abstract theories. They're actually having a real impact.
A huge impact.
And they're creating some pretty amazing opportunities, too.
Absolutely. And Diamandis actually dives deeper into specific technologies that are changing the world, like 3D printing, AI, robotics.
Okay, so AI, artificial intelligence, that's a big one right now.
Yeah. He talks about these entrepreneurs who are using these technologies to tackle huge problems and build these incredible companies.
I love stories about entrepreneurs. It's so inspiring.
It is.
But what I find really fascinating is that these aren't just like tech geniuses, They're regular people who are just willing to think differently. They're not afraid to dream big.
They think at scale.
Yeah, they think at scale, meaning they're aiming to impact like millions, even billions of people. What do you think are like the key things that set these people apart?
I think based on what I read in Bold, they all seem to have this relentless curiosity.
They want to know.
Yeah. And they're not afraid to question the way things are. And they really believe they can make a difference.
They don't just accept the status quo.
Exactly.
So are you ready to hear some of these stories? To learn from these pioneers, these trailblazers?
I am. I'm ready.
I think you're going to find some seriously valuable nuggets of wisdom here that you can apply to your own life.
I'm sure I will.
No matter what you do, whether you're an entrepreneur or just, someone who wants to make the most of these crazy times.
Yeah, I'm really curious to hear how they applied the 6 Ds and what led them to such incredible success. Diamandis profiles these incredible entrepreneurs in bold. Like, each of them kind of embodies a different aspect of thinking at scale.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We've got Elon Musk, this relentless innovator.
Oh yeah, Elon Musk. Got to talk about him.
Richard Branson, like the master of branding and creating experiences.
Right.
Then there's Jeff Bezos, like laser focused on the long game. And Larry Page, this like visionary problem solver.
It's like the Mount Rushmore of entrepreneurs.
Right. It's a pretty amazing group to learn from.
Okay, so let's start with Elon Musk, the guy who wants to colonize Mars, and while he's at it, revolutionize transportation here on Earth. Like, where do you even begin with goals that big?
It's wild. What I found fascinating was his first principles thinking.
First principles thinking.
Yeah. So instead of just accepting the way things are, he breaks problems down to their most basic element.
He gets rid of all the assumptions.
Exactly. And then he builds solutions from there.
He doesn't let, conventional wisdom box him in.
No, he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like with Tesla, he saw how limited the traditional car companies were when it came to electric cars. So he's like, fine, I'll do it myself.
And he did it. And then when he couldn't find affordable rockets to launch his Martian greenhouse project, he was like, okay, I'll just start a rocket company.
SpaceX.
Like, is that fearlessness something that we can, learn? Or is he just, wired that way?
I think we can all learn to be a little bit more fearless.
Yeah.
Right? It's about challenging our assumptions and taking calculated risks.
Stop being afraid to fail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But of course, having a deep understanding of the technology helps too.
Sure, that helps.
Musk definitely operates on a different level.
He really does.
Yeah.
But how do you go from, building electric cars to colonizing Mars? That seems like a pretty giant leap.
Well, he's thinking about the big picture.
Really big picture.
Really big. He sees all the challenges facing us here on Earth, like climate change.
Resource scarcity.
Exactly. And he believes that becoming a multiplanetary species is crucial for our long-term survival. He's playing a much, much longer game.
That's next level thinking at scale. Okay, let's shift gears to Richard Branson. He definitely brings a different energy, right?
Yeah, he's got that flair. Branson understands the power of crafting an experience, of connecting with people on an emotional level.
Like with Virgin Records.
Right. Signing all those iconic bands, shaking up the music industry, that he takes on airlines with Virgin Atlantic. He just loves a challenge.
He's a disruptor. But does his approach, does that work in any industry? What can we learn from him?
I think one big takeaway from Branson is that you got to stand out. You have to be different.
Especially now, it's so crowded out there.
Exactly. You got to give people a reason to choose you, and a lot of that comes down to your brand, and the experience you create.
It's not just about the product anymore, it's about the whole package.
Right. Okay, so we've got the innovator, the master of branding.
Who's next?
Now, on to Jeff Bezos. He's a different breed.
Totally different vibe.
Totally. Bezos is all about playing the long game. For real. He's obsessed with the customer experience.
He wants to build a company that lasts, right?
Yeah, for generations.
Generations. That's thinking long term.
It is. And he's willing to, delay gratification,
Sacrifice those short-term wins.
Yeah, to invest in the things that'll benefit customers way down the line.
It's like his famous quote, it's always day one. He never wants to get complacent.
Exactly. He's always innovating, experimenting, finding ways to improve.
So what can we take away from his approach?
I think Bezos really emphasizes having that long-term vision. It's so easy to get bogged down in the day-to-day, but you got to step back and think, where do I want to be in 5, 10, 20 years?
It's about having that North Star.
Okay, last but not least, Larry Page. Google. What sets him apart?
Page is a true visionary. He really believes that technology can solve some of humanity's biggest problems.
He's not afraid to go for it.
Not at all. And he doesn't care if other people think it's impossible.
I mean, look at Google's work with self-driving cars.
Right, and curing diseases.
These are huge, ambitious projects that could change everything.
Exactly. And he's got that relentless curiosity, that deep belief that technology can make things better. It's pretty inspiring, honestly. So, okay, we've got these 4 incredibly successful entrepreneurs.
All different.
Totally different approaches, different personalities. But what connects them? What's the common thread?
They're all driven by a desire to make a real difference in the world. And they all understand the power of technology to help them do that.
They all think at scale, even if they get there in different ways.
Yeah.
But it's not just about being, a billionaire, a tech mogul, right?
Right.
Diamandis says that anyone can apply these mindsets to your own life, to your work. So how do we start thinking at scale, no matter what our goals are?
It starts with finding a problem you're passionate about, something you really care about.
Okay, find your passion.
Then you start brainstorming solutions.
And that's where you got to think big.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting. How can you use technology? How can you create something that doesn't just impact you, but has this ripple effect, reaches further?
It's not just about you.
Right. It's about thinking bigger.
Diamandis also talks a lot about harnessing the power of the crowd.
Yeah, crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, building communities.
And incentive prizes, we'll get to those.
Right.
So what can we learn from all of these approaches?
Oh, there are some fantastic examples in the book.
Lay 'em on me.
Okay, so think about Pebble Watch. They had one of the most successful Kickstarter campaigns ever.
I remember that.
Or the goddamn Tesla Museum that this fan created using crowdfunding. Like, these are powerful examples of what happens when you tap into the energy and support of a community. You can do amazing things.
It's kind of empowering to know that we don't need millions of dollars or a team of engineers to get started. We can use these tools to build something meaningful.
Exactly.
Even if it's small at first, What really stood out to you from all of these examples?
I think it's how these tools let you bypass the traditional gatekeepers. You don't need to convince a publisher or a record label to get your idea out there. You can go directly to the people who are passionate about what you're doing.
You cut out the middleman? Yeah.
I love that. That democratization of access is so exciting. And Diamandis even used crowdfunding himself, right? To support his asteroid mining company, Planetary Resources.
Yeah, they built the ARKYD space telescope.
Which will be the first publicly accessible space telescope. So cool. Okay, we talked about crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and now community building.
Right. Diamandis believes that communities are essential for, driving innovation.
Making lasting change.
Yes. He talks about DIY drones, which is a community of hobbyists who build and fly their own drones.
That's so cool.
And Local Motors, which uses a community of designers and engineers to build innovative vehicles.
I love the idea of bringing people together around a shared passion and empowering them to create something bigger than themselves. What are some key takeaways from these community-driven successes?
It's not just about building a website and, hoping people will show up. You got to create a shared purpose, a sense of belonging.
Got to be about something.
Yeah, and you have to provide value to the members.
So it's about encouraging participation. Yes. Celebrating successes.
Making people feel like they're part of something.
Exactly. And that can be really powerful.
It sounds like community building is more like art than science.
It really is. You have to create a space where people feel comfortable sharing their ideas, working together, and supporting each other.
It's about relationships. Okay, so we've covered crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and community building. The last piece Diamandis presents is incentive prizes.
Oh, yeah, he's a huge advocate for incentive prizes.
Yeah.
He helped start the X Prize Foundation.
The X Prize, yeah.
They've launched these amazing competitions.
To develop all kinds of things.
Yeah, everything from private space flight to, better oil spill cleanup technologies. Mm. He talks about the Ansari X Prize in the book, which really jump-started innovation in the private space industry.
It seems crazy that offering a prize, even a big one, could lead to those kinds of breakthroughs. How does that work?
By setting a very specific goal and a reward, it encourages people to think outside the box,
And pushes them.
Yeah, it pushes the boundaries of what's possible. It attracts all these brilliant minds who are passionate about solving that problem.
And anyone can do this, right? It's not just for huge organizations.
Right.
Let's say you're working on a project and you're stuck. You could offer a prize to whoever comes up with the solution.
Exactly. It's a great way to tap into the collective intelligence of a group,
You might get solutions you never even thought of.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered so much in this deep dive. The 6 Ds of exponentials, thinking at scale, the power of crowdsourcing in communities. It's clear that we're living in a truly remarkable time.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is.
Diamandis' message is that we shouldn't just sit back and watch this all happen. We should be active participants, shaping the future.
Yeah, get involved.
Exactly.
But he also ends the book with a kind of a cautionary note. He talks about the importance of bold leadership in this exponential world. What do you think he means by that?
He argues that we need leaders who are comfortable with change, with complexity.
Who can guide us to a better future.
Exactly. Leaders who aren't afraid to challenge the status quo, to think at scale. and inspire others to do the same.
And that leadership, that's not just for CEOs and politicians, right?
Yeah.
It's something we can all strive for in our own lives, in our communities. So let's move on to the practical strategies that Diamandis offers.
Okay.
How do we actually take these insights and turn them into action? Are you ready to, like, climb Mount Bold?
Let's do it. I'm always up for a challenge, especially if it means creating a more abundant future for all of us.
All right, so we've talked about thinking big, but thinking big is one thing. How do we actually make those big ideas a reality?
Yeah, how do you go from like, I have a dream, to actually making it happen?
Exactly.
Well, Diamandis actually shares his own journey in the book, going from, just a college student with a wild dream to starting Singularity University.
That's a pretty big jump.
It is. He breaks it down into what he calls climbing Mount Bold.
Mount Bold. I like it.
Right. And what I found really helpful was that he gives you this, like, practical blueprint.
Oh, a blueprint.
Yeah, that anyone can use. It's not just for people starting universities. It's all about building credibility and momentum, like step by step.
Okay, so break it down for me. Where do you even begin climbing this Mount Bold?
Well, the first step is leveraging your network,
Even if it's small.
even if it's tiny.
Okay.
Diamandis started this student group.
Oh, in college.
Yeah, focused on space exploration.
Makes sense.
And through that group, he connected with other passionate people.
Like-minded people.
Exactly. They organized events. They presented at the United Nations.
Wait, as college students?
I know. Not bad, right?
That's impressive. So he created his own opportunities, but then what? You don't just go from, like, student group to launching a university overnight.
Nope. Definitely not overnight. That's where step 2 comes in, slowing down to build credibility.
Okay, slow down.
Don't rush it.
Yeah.
He didn't just jump into Singularity University. He and his co-founders organized a conference.
A conference.
Yeah, to explore the idea of a space university.
So it's like testing the waters, proving the concept.
Exactly.
Did they just invite, like, anyone to this conference?
Well, that's where step 3 comes in, being strategic.
Ooh, strategic. I like it.
He got the Canadian Space Agency on board,
Oh,
and that led to the European Space Agency joining, then the Japanese, the Russians, like dominoes.
that's a power move. So by getting those big names involved early on, they instantly gain credibility.
Exactly. Instant credibility boost.
Oh.
Okay, so what happened at the conference itself?
Yeah, what went down?
Well, that leads us to step 4, messaging.
Messaging. Okay.
They didn't get lost in all the technical stuff.
Like the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, they kept it big picture.
They focused on the why.
Yeah, why do we need a space university?
How will it make the world better?
Exactly. Appeal to people's emotions.
It sounds like they knew how to sell their vision. Did it work?
Oh, totally. They, carefully crafted their presentations.
They brought in experts, I bet.
Yeah, astronauts, CEOs, big names. Created a real buzz.
They got people excited. So they had the network, the credibility, the message. What was the final step in, like, actually launching Singularity University?
Diamandis talks about staging your bold ideas.
Okay.
Don't try to do everything at once. They didn't launch a full-fledged university right away.
Break it down into smaller steps.
Exactly. They started with the summer program and gradually built from there.
So it's about making the impossible possible by, like, breaking it down into bite-sized pieces. Did Diamandis share any other, like, words of wisdom for reaching that summit of Mount Bold?
He talked about, really embracing that explorer mindset.
The explorer.
Yeah. So not getting stuck on one solution, being open to new possibilities.
Being adaptable, being persistent.
Exactly. Always learning and growing.
That goes back to that thinking at scale idea. It's not just about how big your goal is, it's about the attitude you bring to it.
Totally.
Any other big takeaways from Bold that you think our listeners should know?
He actually shares some of his personal laws for success.
Woo! I like those.
Like fail early, fail often, fail forward.
Gotta fail to succeed.
Exactly. It's not about being afraid of making mistakes. It's about learning from them. And he reminds us that the world's most precious resource, you know what it is,
What is
the
it?
persistent and passionate human mind.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
That's what drives innovation, creates real change. He leaves us with a powerful message about leadership.
that we can all be leaders, right?
Yeah, it's not just for CEOs and politicians. It's something we can all cultivate in our own lives. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Bold, I hope you're feeling inspired, feeling empowered.
I know I am.
What was your biggest takeaway from the book?
For me, it was just the reminder that we are living in a truly amazing time,
Yeah.
a time of just crazy opportunity. We have access to these incredible tools, amazing technologies, And we have the power to shape the future.
With our ideas and our actions, it's a call to action. It's not just about dreaming big. It's about taking those dreams and making them a reality.
And Diamandis gave us the roadmap.
He gave us the tools. Now it's up to us to start climbing. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into bold.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
We hope it's given you the insights and the inspiration to make your own bold mark on the world.